Hello everyone, welcome to the second part of Docker volume series. In this video we'll be talking about bind mount, and I'm very glad that you guys are here, and without wasting any time, let us get started. Okay, so for the bind mount, it has a limited functionality compared with the volume. So when you use a bind mount, a file or directory on the host machine is mounted to a container, and we reference that by a directory or or an absolute path. Okay, and unlike the volume where the directory is created within the Docker storage directory, right? Like in the var lib Docker volume. So in this one, on the host machine, and Docker manages the directory content in case of the volume. But for this one, we need to reference the absolute path. Okay, um, so as an example, in my repository, I have a very simple in my Docker container repository. I have an index file which has very simple HTML template. Okay, so uh, we will run this HTML um, code into our container, okay, and using our Apache application image. And imagine like this scenario being like, for example, this could be your application. And if I want to uh, create a bind on this particular application, once I install it in Git, that's where bind mount comes very handy. Okay, so let me first go and create one new directory. So make dir bind mount, and also let me get into the directory. Okay, cd bind mount. Okay, so I'm inside this directory. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to do git clone, and let me clone this repository, or this, imagine this being the application code. So I will do paste, and it cloned my repository, as you can see, Docker container, and I can do cd Docker container, and I see my index file, right? So the next step is so if I do the present working directory, so this is my present working directory. All right. So we are creating a bind mount in this directory. So for that, I have used this Apache image. This is available in the Docker Hub, and you can go ahead and see. So there is a little bit of explanation, right? So this HTTP server, colloquially called Apache, is a web server application notable for playing key role in the initial growth of World Wide Web. Okay, so um, this is Apache image, and we will run this image on our Docker container. Okay, so I'm just gonna use one of the code that uh, this documentation provide. So without a Docker file. Okay, so I'm just gonna copy this one, and let me go here. Okay, so let's go over the command quickly. So docker run detached mode interactive dit. Okay, so name, so this is my Apache application. So this is the container port 80 is mounted to 8080. Okay, this is resolved to port 8080. Or I can also, for example, let's try doing capital P. So this will assign the port for me. Okay. So, and if you see here, this is where we are creating a bind mount. So present working. So this is our source, and this is the target. Okay. So the target is the Apache uh, location that Apache suggests us in their documentation. This is where we are uh, uh, using as our target, and our binding is done in this present working directory, and we are using the image of Apache. All right, so pretty simple. So let us run that one, and it is done. So if I do, sorry, capitalize, so docker psa, I see my container up and running. So if I go into my instance and I copy this, and if you see here, um, the system assigned us this port 49155. Okay, since we did not give that port ourselves. So if I do, oh, sorry, I actually need to copy this address, and okay, and we will 49155. All right, so you see my application. This tutorial will teach you about mind mount. Okay, so this is what's happening here. And then let's if I like just do, let's do if I make some edit. Okay, so code deployment, um, quickly, I updated my file, anything. Okay, I'll just do commit the change. I'll do go here, I will do the git pull, I'll pull the image, and if I update, all right, so this will update my image. So what I'm trying to show you here is unlike the Docker volume where we are creating our uh, volume, the volume is created in the varlib docker. Here we were able to assign that manually ourselves, right? So in this case, this could be handy when we are deploying our application from the github, and we have a particular file path in our file system. That's where we can do the docker bind mount. Okay, so this is another way for persisting our data even when the container is not running or the container is removed. So in our next section, we'll be talking about Dockerfile. And if you like my videos so far, please don't forget to hit the like and subscribe button.